Hey YouTube, RicoKnows here. You guys see this story by CBS? They posted it on Twitter. 24/7 actually reposted it, 24/7 Sports. I don't believe in anything these people are saying, but check out this story. They said, are Group of 5 programs actually being rated by power conferences? Are Group of 5 programs being rated by the Power 4? Or the Power 5, however you guys used to say it. And if you don't know what Group of 5 is, I always assume people know what we're talking about. Let's be clear, though. There are 5 conferences in college football. They all had a meeting. They came to an agreement that they would have certain bowl agreements or bowl matchups. And because of the bowl affiliations and the agreements that they would play one another, they created the Power 5. In other words, we decided we're the in crowd and nobody else exists. Now, money talks. Once you got the bowls to buy in, the TV contracts bought in, and the rest is history. So those 5 conferences are the Pac-12, which no longer exists. That's why we call it the Power 4 now instead of the Power 5. But you have the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC. And those 5 conferences, plus Notre Dame, are about 66 different teams. And it grows because we just picked up SMU. It grows because they pick up other teams every year, whatever it is. But the point is those teams make up most of the TV that you watch. Most of the teams people follow is those players, and they're going to convince you that's where all the best players are, and that's where everything is. Now, I come to tell you guys, like, hey, players are everywhere. The best players are everywhere. Relax. Yes, they go to those schools, but sometimes they didn't originate there, right? You're going to see some transfers from the Group of 5 that showed up to the Power 5 and dominate like it's nothing because there's talent everywhere, and it's a fact. Now, everybody's up in arms about this. Is this what's happening? Are the Group of 5 teams now feeder programs for the Power 4 teams, right? Group of 5 is your American Conference or American Athletic Conference, Conference USA, the Sun Belt, the MAC, or the Mountain West. Those are the conferences that people think is small school football. It's still Division I football. It's still FBS football, but it's not the same as the multi-million-dollar TV deals or the multi-million-dollar coaching contracts that you got on the other side of the house. Now that's multi-million-dollar NIL deals. And you see players just leaving Group of 5 teams everywhere because they can't compete with them pay-wise. And they want to know if it's a big deal. And they wrote a story about it, an article. And you look in here, they're talking about some of the top players from Group of 5 teams transferring to the Power 5. But by the way, DeQuan Finn is not him. Shout out to Toledo going to Baylor. Cassius Howell's decent, but these aren't even the best players that are transferring. Yes, Trey Moore's great. But down here it says the schools that lost the most transfers to the Power 4. And those schools are New Mexico State, James Madison, and San Diego State. Now, the top 3 all had coaching changes. And to be clear, the top 2, they're actually following their coaches to Power 5 teams. So JMU, Kirk Cignetti went and got hired at Indiana. All the players essentially followed him there. And then New Mexico State, Jerry Kill stepped down as the head coach, but he's now an assistant analyst of some sort at Vanderbilt, and his offensive coordinator moved from New Mexico State to Vanderbilt. If you noticed, a lot of New Mexico State's transfers went to Vanderbilt. They also had a 10-win season. They played great, blew out Auburn. They really proved themselves, and a lot of great players there. We watch them play every single game if you're an MVP. But here's my thing. I don't care how many transfers or what's going on. Why are we writing about this? Are you guys aware of the fact that Boise State, that's the helmet below me, Boise State's been getting rated by Power 5 teams for 20 years, and nobody talks about it. You know, these teams, these Group of 5 teams have been getting rated by the Power 5 your whole lifetime. You didn't realize it because nobody talked about it, but they were rating the head coaches left and right. Okay, so Boise State, Houston Nutt was their head coach in 1997, and he left to go be the head coach of Arkansas. That means Arkansas stole the head coach from a Power 5 team. No one was up in arms about it. Nobody wrote a story about it. Nobody freaked out. They just, they chalked that up to the game and just be like, yo, he got a promotion. He's on his way up. Then their next head coach after Houston Nutt was Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter's there, doing well. Transfers, essentially gets hired at Arizona State. So then they replace him with Dan Hawkins. Dan Hawkins eventually does so well, he gets hired at Colorado. Then Chris Peterson replaces him. Chris Peterson stays there for a very long time, but eventually gets hired at Washington. Then they go through a couple of coaches, and then they get to Brian Harsin, and he does so well he gets hired by Auburn. Now, how they performed at their next stop doesn't matter. But here is a group of 5 team being rated for 20 years, over 20 years, being rated by the Power 5 teams, and not one story written about it. I've talked about this in the past. This is why I know the dates, the schools, the names. I've talked about this at length for 2 years now. My thing is if you look at coaches getting promoted and moving up the ranks from group of 5 to the Power 5 as promotions and positive, and you never write a story about it, you never want to put any rules on it, you never want to hinder it, you never want to stop it. It's never tampering because they're under contract, because they're adults. It's never tampering. It's never labeled incorrectly. It's never shunned upon. But the minute it's the players, now we got to stop it. Now they're being rated. Now it's just Big Brother's bullying and taking all the talent. What do you think they've been taking all the coaching talent for your whole lifetime? Right? Nick Saban started at Toledo. They've been taking all the coaching talent your whole lifetime. What's wrong with the players progressing and moving up as they get better? I understand. You want to try to keep the players in place because they're at whatever group of 5 team they're at. Miami of Ohio signing some great kids out of high school, developing them, and then they jump in the portal and leave them. Oh, they'll never get on their feet. This is terrible for them and all this shit. No, they can do a number of things. They can identify that individual and say, you see that guy over there? You see how good he is? We made him that good before he got there. We're the reason he's that good. You can do that. We got 1,000-yard rushers every year, and they go on to the NFL or to the SEC or to wherever. Come sign with us. We'll get you there. There's nothing wrong with that. Only these writers want to tell you that. 24/7 wants to talk about it. It's not complicated. They wrote it's complicated. There's nothing complicated about it. I want you guys to think about a girl you're dating. You meet a girl in high school. You're both working the fries at Burger King. You're a little smarter than that. You keep doing your homework. You eventually get accepted into a college, and now you got to transfer schools and go to this new college. And you're going to meet somebody at the new college who's equivalent to you in ambition, intellect, maybe trajectory in life. And now that girl that's on the fries doesn't work out for you. She's not a good fit anymore. Is it unfair to move on? Is it unrealistic to think that you would find somebody more equivalent to you and your abilities? There are some of these young men that are signing with teams or committing to schools, and it's working the fries. And next week they want to be a district manager. They have aspirations of owning their own restaurant one day. You get what I'm saying? So you can't hinder them. You can't stop that. You definitely should not be vilifying it. You definitely should not be asking the question like in a negative context or connotation like, yo, this is a bad thing. We need to stop this. This is a bad thing. They just keep raiding all these group of 5 schools. What are you talking about? You never once said anything about this when coaches were moving up from the group of 5 to the Power 5. Not one person said a thing about it. Now the players do it. It's the problem. Now we got to stop it. Now we got to frown upon it. They're picking on the little guy. They're taking all the good players from the little guy's school. Yeah. You took all the good coaches. The SEC is getting transfers left and right, and they're just sitting around still saying, hey, we're the best. We got all the best players. We've developed the best. We grow the best. We are the best players in the South. I hear all this shit, and I'm like, well, let me double check that. Jaden Daniels, Arizona State. Brock Bowers from California. What the fuck are we doing? Bryce Young, California. What are we doing? We're lying to ourselves. And I think we need to applaud progression and growth and not try to hinder it. So if we're going to allow coaches to move up the ranks, and rightfully so, this is America, don't you dare try to stop these players. If they're good enough, don't you dare try to put a hindrance on them. The reality of the situation is a lot of times these players take the offer given to them because it's the only one they got. And as soon as they get there, sometimes you outgrow the offer. You know, there's people who are dating ugly people right now, but it's the only person who gave them any attention, gave them any shot. Shouldn't shun them if they ever move on to something better. Just so happens they found somebody better. You ever been in a small town? You ever been in a small town and seen a couple? And look at them? And the girl is absolutely gorgeous. The dude's just a fat farmer. You're like, what the hell is she doing with that dude? He's fat in overalls and everything. She didn't know any better. She had no other options. He used to have a Letterman's jacket. He was the first guy with an F-150. She never got out of town. That's all she knew. You got to pick somebody, bro. So I just think it happens in every facet of life, in every walk of life, but only in college football do we think it's a problem when you eventually find your equivalent or you go out and find a better match for yourself. We applaud it for the adults. Oh, my God, it's life-changing. It's life-altering. They're getting a contract. Dude, it's life-altering and life-changing if you earn all conference at the FCS level and then an FBS team calls and says, we want to pay you $20,000, $30,000 a month for the next 2 years to come play at our school. That's life-altering, just so we're clear. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Stay up, y'all, and I hope you don't lose your girl.